This is a little story about a house we lived at in Reedsville. Once upon a time, on a street called Lawsonville Avenue, which kind of nowadays makes you think back to the Lawson murders back years ago. Of course, that would have been in a completely different area, but Lawsonville, I don't know, it's just a real particular name, sticks in your mind, or it does mine. Maybe that's the reason why, but, well, not that reason, but the reasons I'm about to give. So we moved into this house, I don't know, I was probably 8, 10 years old, maybe 12, somewhere around in there. Give or take, I don't know. The first night we moved in, my parents hear a phone ringing downstairs. They were sitting in the dining room, after having moved furniture and boxes all day. And they hear a phone ringing downstairs. But the thing is, the only thing downstairs is an unfinished basement with a furnace in it. And I think one light bulb that you could turn on. But there's certainly no phone. There did seem to be a pile of lime, whatever, beside the furnace, which I always thought was odd. Maybe it's just old ash from an old stove or something. I don't know. I always thought that was weird. And then when you get up towards the front of the house, like up underneath, it's all unfinished, red clay. And once you get to the front of the house, it's so low that you have to crawl. But up there, I found an old antique frog gigging stick, which is, kind of like a little trident type thing you use to hunt, I guess, frogs and small game like that. I also found a bag of women's clothes, like a grocery bag of like heels and like sweaters. And it was like an outfit or two. I just always thought that was so weird because it was stuffed up into the front, like where you have to crawl flat, and basically there is no head space. You've got like maybe 1.5 feet vertical. So somebody would have had to climb all the way up in there, or somebody put it there before there was a porch there, and maybe there is like a busted out section in the block there. It's just kind of rocked over that leads under the porch, but it's so low under the porch that you couldn't really get under it. But anyway, that was the first night, and for me, it didn't really appear that weird. My grandfather had gangrene in his foot. He'd been misdiagnosed for years, and by the time they got it, it was, poisoned his blood. So one day they had to amputate his toe. The next day they had to amputate half his foot. The next day they had to amputate his whole foot. Then they had to amputate his leg midway. And if I'm not mistaken, the next day, then they cut it right below the knee. And luckily that got all the infection. But inevitably that led him to having a stroke later on and having some complications. And he ended up eventually passing away of a aneurysm on his front porch, or side porch rather. But after he had surgery, him and my grandmother needed some help. And, rather than paying, we had nurses come in and physical therapists, but I think he wanted, family around more so than anything. And I didn't really think the house was weird the whole time he was there. But after they left, it seemed weird to me. Now, see, initially there's a 3-bedroom house, and I stayed in the middle bedroom initially. Then when they moved in, they moved into the middle bedroom, and I moved into the back bedroom. And I don't know if that had something to do with it. So it started that way. But also, come to think of it, I guess it was sort of a slow burn initially. It wasn't too bad, in the middle room. Started, after they left. I always felt, I don't know, like like it was sucking the life out of you. Like it was just a very odd feeling. I've encountered that feeling at other places, but I don't know, it's just a real particular feeling in the middle room that wasn't there beforehand. And, my grandpa was a good person, my grandmother was a good person. So unless that was just something attached to his pain that made you feel that way, I don't know. But I never could figure that out. And then, about this time, not long after they left, I believe, is when I first started receiving writing, little messages, smiley faces, and different things on the bathroom mirror. It would just say different little random, whatever, little smiley faces, just little odd things. But the bathroom mirror was up on the wall. I don't know, probably 6 foot. So, not that we had a kid there, but even if we had a kid there, it's not like they would be able to scribble on the mirror. So that started happening. Then you started to get this feeling. There was a hallway that led from down to the bathroom in the back. And the first bedroom was off the living room. The middle bedroom was off the hallway. The third bedroom was off the hallway. And then you have a bathroom door at the end. And there's a grate in the floor. It was an old oil furnace. So there's a grate in the floor for that. And I don't know, after a while it started to feel like kind of like somebody was following you down that hallway, or somebody was watching you, even though you never could see anything. After the keep acting fucking stupid for some reason. Anyway, keeps on like this, I'm gonna forget the goddamn story before I get fucking started. Third fucking video, and I'm 7 minutes in? Right, anyway. So it started out with little shit like that, like, writing on the mirrors, feeling uncomfortable, feeling like somebody's watching you when there's nobody there. Well, like I said, I started to stay in the back bedroom at this point. I continued to stay in the back bedroom for whatever reason. I guess I didn't want to move back into the middle bedroom because of how odd it felt at this point. Well, starts out in every night at the end of my bed, there would be this guy, as cliche as it sounds, but at the time, I didn't know that other people had experienced, a similar thing, but at the foot of my bed, there was a closet with like a double sliding door. And right at the edge of that closet stood a man every night in a long coat and like a fedora type hat. But he was pitch black from head to toe. It was like a shadow of a person. But he stood there all night, never moved, never made a sound, never did anything, just stood there silently all night, every night, for years. And then eventually, I got the impression that obviously this was like a male presence of some sort. And then I started to get this, I don't know if you call it sensation or interaction or whatever, with, I'm assuming what would be like a female entity of whatever sort. Every night after a certain period, this woman would come in and sit on my bed. Of course, I'd have my head covered up, because I'm not sure I ever wanted to see what it was. But even if I looked, I wouldn't have seen anything. I'm sure I have looked and didn't see anything, but every night would come inside of me, the clown sort of tuck the blood around me there for a period of time, and then she would get up and sort of ease the tension of where that figure was. I guess what that make now. Like I said at the time, I never seen that stupid expression. What goes on? I mean, I guess it's a simplified terminology. I don't think it encompasses what quite enough to, but I'll see it happening. And then, not after that, like, you'd be on the VCR and it would kick on change channels, or